This is the KTC G27P6S OLED gaming monitor, the successor to the G27P6 that I reviewed last year, which was an affordable OLED monitor. We get the same fast 240Hz refresh rate at 1440p, but now with a newer WOLED panel that's brighter in both SDR and HDR, making the G27P6S a noticeable upgrade. Priced under $650, this might be a great choice for gamers looking for an OLED monitor without breaking the bank. So let's unbox the KTC G27P6S. Comes in this really awesome looking box here. You can see an awesome astronaut over there. Now KTC does stand for Key to Combat, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to look. I did have their non-S model, and that one was a really good affordable OLED monitor, but now they upgraded this to be even better. Alright, first things first, we're going to have a quick start guide, followed by a color calibration factory report. Alright, here we have the base in a really nice darker silver gunmetal grayish color. Alright, here is the arm portion of the monitor stand. You can see it does have this little purple cable management clip right on the back so you can route all of your cables. Right over here we have the power adapter, which is going to be separate from the actual monitor itself. I personally like to see this. Right over here we have a box, which should carry all of our accessories. Let's see what we get. Alright, the very first thing we're going to have is a display port cable, followed by an HDMI cable. And for the last input cable, they're going to give you a USB-C cable. Now, so far, I'm liking the selection of input cables they're giving you. They're giving you DisplayPort, HDMI, and USB Type-C, which is awesome. Next up, we have the US power plug, followed by a set of 4 standoff screws. Now, you're going to need to use this if you want to mount this on a monitor arm. And finally, we get a user manual. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and see what the monitor looks like. All right, and there we have it, guys. Here's the back of the monitor here. We have G27 on the right, KTC logo right on the center. That does light up RGB. Little menu button over here, and we do have an input port cover here as well. And the front of it, we are protected with a really nice screen protector here to ensure no scratches or damages to this display. Now keep in mind that this is not glossy, so we are going to be removing this because this is a WOLED matte panel. But look at that thinness of that OLED display. So let's go ahead and set this up. All right, guys, before I install the stand here, I did remove the input port cover here, which is very easy to remove and install again. I personally like to just keep it this way so I can have full access to the inputs at any time. Now taking a look over here, starting with the left, we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. We have 2 HDMI ports. The only downside here is that they are HDMI 2.0. Unfortunately, they're not 2.1, but being that this is 1440p, it's not too much of a big issue, but I would have preferred 2.1, especially for console gamers. Now this is going to be DisplayPort 1.4. We have an awesome USB Type-C that supplies up to 65 watts of power delivery. We also get a USB hub. We have the USB 3.0 upstream and 2 USB-A 3.0 downstream. I absolutely love USB hubs on monitors. And what's amazing about this is that there is KVM support. And then once again, the power button, the menu control is going to be right over here. Now, another great thing about this is that it does have dual speakers here. You can see the cutout here for the left speaker here and for the right one here. So it's really nice to see on the monitor, so let's go ahead and set it up. Now installing the stand is very easy and simple. We're just going to grab the arm portion, we're going to locate these little 3 tabs, and we're going to angle it right in, right on the top. And then we should hear a nice click. And finally we grab the base and then we put it right inside. And then we have a nice wingtip screw that we can screw in with our hands. Okay, want to make sure that's nice and tight. And just like that, we have the monitor successfully installed. We can just place it right on top. All right, let's go ahead and reveal this 27-inch OLED panel. And as you can see, we have a matte WOLED panel, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn on this ring light over here. You can see how the matte diffuses this very harsh light. All right, taking a look at the adjustments of this stand, we do have height adjustments. So you can go down, and a really good amount of height adjustments here. You are also able to swivel this as well. We do have tilts. And finally, if you want to pivot the screen, you definitely can. You can just rotate it 90 degrees. And this is if you want to have a nice vertical layout. All right, for those of you that are going to be using the stand, as you can see right over here, the stand that does stick out a little bit. It does rob some of your desk space, but I'm really liking the fact that this portion of the stand is very slim And I think the cable management does a really good job of hiding the cables, at least when you're looking at the front end over here. And I want to take you a little bit closer to the cable management right over here. As you can see, that purple clip does a really good job of routing all of those cables. Now I have a lot of cables connected, of course, but if you're like me, then you definitely might want to use a monitor arm. The very first thing you want to do and make sure is you enable the fastest refresh rate, which is 240 hertz, because by default it locks it at 60 hertz. So that's the first thing we want to do. All right, now that we have 240 hertz, the last thing to enable is variable refresh rate. Now you'll notice that if you have an NVIDIA graphics card under NVIDIA control panel, there is no setup G-Sync at all. And this is because by default, the monitor does not enable the adaptive sync support here. So in order to enable that, you just click on the menu button on the back. You just click on it and it brings up the menu. And then you want to go to where it says gaming setup. And then right on the top, it has adaptive sync. Right here, you notice it's going to be set to off. So you just go to the right, scroll down, and to hit enter, you do have to scroll right again so that it enables it. All right, and it gives you a little prompt here letting you know about a flickering that couldn't be due depending on the graphics card. But we're just gonna hit confirm here. Probably talking about OLED VR Flicker, to be honest. All right, now that we have variable refresh rate on, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out and reopen NVIDIA control panel here. And right over here, now we have the setup G-Sync option. And over here, you'll notice that it says here that the selected display is not validated as G-Sync compatible. Now again, that's just a certification, but we are able to enable it as long as you have the first one checked and this number 3 specifically enable. Once you click that, you want to make sure you hit apply. All right, and just like that, we have 240 hertz and we have G-Sync enabled to ensure the most smoothest gameplay. Now let's test out the gaming performance of the KTC G27P6S using my gaming PC equipped with a 4090 and an AMD Ryzen 9800X3D. Stay tuned because I'll also showcase PS5 gameplay. Gaming with 240 hertz, low 0.03 millisecond response time, and an awesome OLED panel is fire. You're getting amazing contrast, deep blacks, and awesome colors. With many OLED monitors coming out with even higher refresh rates like 360, 480, and possibly even more than that, I think 240 hertz is still very fast. It keeps the cost down, and depending on your PC specs and the type of games you play, 240 should be more than enough. Now, fast-paced, action-packed games like Black Ops 6 looks amazing on this monitor with buttery smooth gameplay thanks to the built-in adaptive sync technology. This being a 1440p monitor, it means I can have graphics settings to extreme and still be able to enjoy high frames per second. Now when it comes to the OLED flicker, you'll notice that my camera is picking up some flickering off the screen. However, in my eyes right now, I actually don't see any type of flickering. So if I adjust the shutter speed of my camera down to, let's say, a 20, obviously this is going to appear very slow-mo. However, this is how the screen looks like in my eyes. It's not as bad as in QD OLED panels where the flickering is very intense, where the only way to really alleviate and remove that completely would be to eliminate G-Sync altogether or FreeSync to eliminate the flickering. So I'm really glad that this panel so far doesn't really show that much flickering. I mean, right now I can notice a little bit. Now, to give you an example of loading screens, for example, here we are on a loading screen and the flickering will definitely be noticeable. All right, and I just shut off the adaptive sync built into the monitor. So it's the same thing. You can disable G-Sync in the settings as well, but you'll notice that there's no flickering at all. So if that's something that bothers you, you are able to disable that. Let me just bring up the menu real quick. Like I said, the adaptive sync is completely off and that will 100% alleviate that flickering. However, in game, it's really not that bad. In game, again, you're not really going to notice flickering at all. That's being caught from the camera if I'm letting the shutter speed automatically adjust to what's on the screen. It's not as bad as in QD OLED, and I think it's very manageable. If you want to enjoy that tear-free gaming, I think the trade-off is definitely worth it. Testing out the PS5 Pro, I am happy to report that the KTC G27P6S will support variable refresh rates all the way up to 120 Hz when you enable 1440p output. This is a huge improvement over last year's model that didn't support VRR on the PS5. The dual speakers also sound good for a monitor. If you ever want to use external speakers, then you can also use the 3.5mm headphone jack. This monitor is a great choice for console gamers looking for a 27-inch OLED monitor that checks all the boxes. It's not 4K, but 1440p on a smaller screen still looks good. Now, testing out the brightness in SDR, it gets really bright with a 2% peak of 486 nits. At a 100% APL, brightness peaked at 294 nits, which is a huge improvement over last year's model. It really makes using this monitor in brighter setups a better experience. In HDR gaming, the G27P6S delivers higher peak brightness, which I measured 1281 nits on a 1% APL and 272 nits on a 100% APL. I also enjoyed using RTX HDR to deliver some beautiful HDR gaming. Comparing last year's G27P6 with the new S model side by side, in the dark, it can be hard to distinguish the improvements, but in person, it is very noticeable that the new model is brighter. But to really appreciate it, once you turn on the lights, you'll notice the brightness is much higher on the G27P6S. This makes browsing the web and small text easier to see. The older model also has a grainier matte, while the new one has a softer, less hazy screen that is really hard to show on camera. Glossier panels like most QD OLED monitors have better clarity and visual appeal, but the matte coating does an amazing job of fighting off the glare from light sources, where I can comfortably game and be productive even with intense lighting. There's also the benefit of WOLED not raising black levels to a horrible looking purple tint on glossier QD OLED monitors. So to the ultimate question, is the KTC G27P6S OLED gaming monitor worth getting for your gaming desk setup? I mean, if you don't mind the matte coating, then this monitor is a great choice for those looking for a 1440p OLED gaming monitor with a respectable 240Hz refresh rate at a lower price point. I also like the versatility of inputs that KTC brings, which is perfect for laptop users, and even though the HDMI is limited to 2.0, it doesn't affect next-gen consoles for 120Hz VRR gaming. The KTC G27P6S is an awesome improvement and makes it easier to recommend at the start of this year. If you're interested in this monitor or the many tech that you've seen in this video, I'll leave affiliate links down below. Thanks for watching, and I would love your support with a like, share, and subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. Firewolf out.